Welcome to the podcast, A Drink with Derek. Follow comedian Derek Richards on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram, and don't forget to subscribe to his YouTube channel and watch all episodes of the podcast. Now grab a drink and join your host, Derek Richards.
Yeah, I'm a military veteran. Any other military veterans? Two of you? The rest of you hate America? No, I was in the Navy. A lot of the other branches like to make fun of the Navy. They act like it's not that tough of a branch of service. But I'm here to tell you, man, the Navy's a lot tougher than people think. Like, I remember that whole week I was in. Shut up. I fought for your freedom for 7 days, and you will respect me, all right? Yeah. If it weren't for me, you'd be speaking German. I don't even know what that means. I don't. My granddad used to say it. It probably meant more to him, I guess. Yeah. And the only reason why I went into the military is because I didn't know what I wanted to do with my life. You know, when I was 18, I didn't know I could do a show in Myrtle Beach for 53 people. You know? I didn't know this dream were possible. You know, I'd been doing this a long time ago. And then I talked to a Navy recruiter, and that guy knew exactly what I should do with my life. I have no idea how he figured it out. He told me, he said, you go into the military and you learn a trade. You get out and you do that same job in the private sector, you make twice as much money. So I went in, I learned how to shoot missiles. I got out. No one's hiring, you know? I've gotten a couple emails from North Korea, but I'm not ready, you know? Not ready for the switch. I ran into a friend of mine from when I was in the Navy. I was actually in for 5 years. I ran into a friend of mine a couple weeks ago, actually, at the beach. It was good to see him, man. I hadn't seen him since I was in the Navy, and he changed a lot. He lost a lot of weight. He lost, like, I don't know, I guess about 17 pounds. That's what the average human arm weighs. And listen, I know that's a terrible way to start a joke. I get it. There's nothing funny about losing your arm, but what bothered me about Steven is he wouldn't tell me how he lost his arm. You know, and it kept running through my head on how it might have happened. You know, and you can't just ask your friend, hey, man, how'd you lose your arm? That's rude, you know? So you got to trick him. So I was like, so, what's changed, Steven? He was like, not much, and I was thinking, no, something's changed. Like, the last time I saw you, you were double-armed, you know? Now you're swimming in circles in Myrtle Beach. Come on. Finally, I just asked him, I was like, hey, man, I don't mean to be rude, but how did you lose your arm? He looked at me and he said, I was born that way. I was like, oh my God, I smoked too much weed in high school. Like, I didn't remember it like that at all. And then I was like, Stephen McNamara? He said, no, Stephen Johnson. I was like, oh my God, I don't even know you.
That man that you just saw right there is my guest who is here with me right now on A Drink with Derek. He is in Fort Myers, Florida. I am here in Las Vegas. Jamie Morgan, comedian and club owner, as seen on Judge Mathis.
That's right. That's my big TV credit.
That's your big TV credit. Before I ask you about Judge Mathis, though, I've got to ask you the. I always do this with guests. I always ask them 3 random questions that make absolutely no sense, but I just need to get your perspective on something. So here we go.
All right.
They just canceled Pepe Le Pew. If you could cancel 3 things, any 3 things, what would they be?
Any 3 things?
Any 3 things.
The cancel culture itself. I'd start there.
Okay.
It's crazy. These people, you know, do something. There's no forgiveness anymore in the world, I guess. It's just crazy. You know, certain people do need to get canceled. People that commit huge crimes, like obviously, you know, like people like Bill Cosby and stuff like that. But people that, you know, bump into somebody and they think that it's something sexual and they get canceled. It's just crazy. It's crazy to me. You can't make.
So you would cancel the cancel culture. You got 2 more things. Yeah. It can be anything. It could be people, could be food, could be places.
Any people? Probably. Let's go with Don Lemon. Let's cancel Don Lemon. Not a big fan of Don Lemon. For a lot of reasons, but let's just get rid of him.
We'll cancel Don Lemon.
Then if we could cancel social media altogether, just cancel it.
You're my hero. Let's cancel culture, Don Lemon, and social media.
Yeah, I mean, if you cancel culture, if you cancel social media, I think you get rid of cancel culture anyway.
True.
So that could take birds with one stone. I just think social media, at first it was a fun thing, and it helped places advertise and stuff like that, and that's great. But it's just gotten out of control. I mean, people digging up 10-year-old tweets from a 16-year-old kid, and now he's a Major League Baseball player or something like that, and then they're trying to get rid of him. It's insane. It's just social media as a whole. Let's just get rid of it.
It's so toxic.
Yeah. Instead of showing people the great food that you ate, why don't you just invite them to dinner?
Why would you want to do that?
That's
ridiculous.
Some people care more about the posts than they do the experience. Like, you see people all the time when a big event or whatever, and they're looking at their phones, like holding them up, trying to get a video of it. And I'm like, you're missing the experience so you can show people what you experienced.
Mm-hmm. I'm with you 100%.
Maybe I'm just old.
No. There's a difference between being old and just making sense, and you just make way too much sense. Now, you don't fly. Why don't you fly? You and I have gotten into this on multiple occasions in this business for what you do when you were just doing comedy. What happened? Did you get touched by an airplane pilot? What went wrong? Yeah. And then all of a sudden that just triggered all the subsequent events?
I think that would have been easier than what I went.
And it would have made it even worse if the pilot was taking pictures of him touching you and putting it on Facebook.
I'll be fine with that. I'd rather do that than fly. I really would. It's just there's no reason to be up there. My granddad probably started this whole thing when I was a kid, and he told me if you wanted to get closer to God, go to church, not on a plane. He was afraid. He wasn't afraid to fly. He would do it, and my dad, I guess, flew a few times, and I've flown probably 30 times, 40 times, if you count each flight. I haven't gone to 40 different places, but yeah, I mean, I used to fly from Key West to Miami, and then we'd go wherever, like go to Jacksonville or Alabama. I flew from San Diego all the way to Florida. I mean, I've done it, and I was somewhat fine. I was a little nervous, but I would get comfortable and fall asleep. But then I took one flight. It was crazy. It was Jacksonville to Charlotte, and that flight, everything was good. There was no problem. So I had like only 2 panic attacks, and then I went from Charlotte to Raleigh, and that was the scariest flight I've ever. That was probably the scariest moment of my life.
That's like a 10-minute flight,
and the entire 10 minutes was terrifying.
Wow.
I don't know what happened. He said he turned off fasten your seatbelt sign and all that, and then he said we're gonna have a smooth ride into Raleigh, and then right when he hung it up, it's like, I don't know if his knee hit the steering wheel or whatever. Something happened that shouldn't have happened. And I mean, people were flying everywhere. They're literally bumping their heads on the luggage racks and stuff. It was crazy. And ever since then, I have not flown, and that was, I would say it's like 15 years ago.
See, I never knew that experience. See, I would have stopped busting your balls a long time ago had I known that traumatic experience had happened to you.
Well, it's not like I was super tough about it before that. I mean, I was still. You
were okay with it, but you weren't on board with doing this as a means of transportation. If you could drive, you would certainly go ahead and drive.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right.
I mean, I've driven from. I drove from Gainesville to Milwaukee once, nonstop.
Oh, that's a treat.
Yeah, it was me and Chris Cope, another comic. He was like, "Oh, well, let's just split the ride, split the gas," and I'm like, "Oh, awesome!" So then we get in my car and we start driving, and then we're about to switch, and he's like, "Oh, I don't know how to drive a stick," and I'm like, "You should have told me that 4 states ago."
Oh, that sucks.
Bad person. Yeah, I had to drive the whole thing.
Oh, what a douchebag! Oh,
yeah,
that is such a dick move.
And then we hit snow in just outside of Milwaukee.
Of course,
we're both Florida. I mean, we're Florida through and through. I've never driven through the snow. That was terrifying too. So I mean, then I stopped doing shows up north in the winter.
There's little life's lessons that just seem to pop up.
Yeah.
Now, have you ever played the game? Have you ever played the game Cards Against Humanity?
I have, yeah.
Have you? Okay, because I've got this game, and I got the box, and I pulled it out, and I'm like, I've never played this game. So I'm like, let me just pull out the cards and just see what this game is about. Didn't even look at the instructions because I'm stupid. Why would I bother doing that to see how the game's actually played? And so I pulled out these 6 random cards. So I'm gonna show them to you, and then you tell me what these would mean in the context of the game.
Okay.
If you can recall. Okay, so here we go. First card is not wearing pants. Okay.
Pants.
I know. Okay. Yeah, 6 random cards that I pulled out. I've never played the game. I'm like the only person on the planet that hasn't played this game. The next one is my balls on your face.
Those match up.
Okay, that's gotcha. Cool. I didn't know how that. I wasn't. These were just they were next to each other. So okay, here's another one. Pooping in a laptop and closing it.
All right, I like that one.
That's it. Okay, here's one. Dead babies. Huh?
Those are bad. Those are always bad, no matter what. A dead baby. I'm sad.
Hey, this goes with the dead baby's foreskin. How about that one? Huh?
It starts.
I don't. And then this is random, a saxophone solo.
Is so that I don't what know, killed the baby?
I don't know if a saxophone solo is being played while my balls are on your face and there's a bunch of dead babies around us. I don't know what these cards mean. Do you have any idea what this means? Can you summarize this in a couple of quick sentences, or does it just not pop into your head right now?
No, I mean, I'm lost. Yeah, I don't know. I guess the saxophone solo is what killed the dead baby, but it could have also been from when you shit into a laptop. I don't know. With your pants
or the foreskin. We can't leave the foreskin out.
Well, that's how the dead baby got there. It started with foreskin.
Okay, perfect. This is a stupid game. All right, never mind.
Sometimes it's really fun, and then sometimes you get a combination where you're just like, I can't do anything with it.
If I can hand this to you, your hands down one of the funniest on-the-fly comedians, and if I can hand you these 6 cards and you can't think of exactly how these things tie together, I have no clue. This game is absolutely worthless. You're a comedian first and foremost. Now you're a club owner down in Fort Myers, Florida. You were on Judge Mathis. I got to ask you how the Judge Mathis thing came about.
Okay, so me and Tim Kidd, we were touring together, and we thought it would be a good idea to try and get on TV somehow. So what we decided to do is come up with it was all a lie. So let's start there. We wanted to come up with a story and then pitch it to all the shows and try and get on it. Not like it's going to make you famous, but it would have been cool, right?
Sure.
So one night I got wasted at Carolina Comedy Club. It was before I was managing there. And a friend of mine, Chase Holiday, was hosting, and he had a huge, gross beard. I mean, it was just gross. And I was wasted, and I was telling him how gross his beard was. And finally, we talked him into shaving his beard if I shaved one of my eyebrows off. So
okay.
Finally, I just was tired of trying to convince him, so I said I was going to go to sleep. And I went in the bathroom and shaved one of my eyebrows off. So I opened the door, and it's like it was glowing. It was so pale underneath these luscious eyebrows. We turned this. I did that, and then he shaved his beard off. So then I shaved the other one off. But we told Judge Mathis that Tim Kidd shaved one off while I was drunk and passed out. And then when I woke up, I shaved the other one because the only thing worse than having no eyebrows is having one. It's way worse. Trust me, I've seen it. And then it turned into me and Tim Kidd getting $3,000 and splitting it. I won the case.
You should have. Kind of piece of garbage shaves off his buddy's eyebrows.
Yeah, we said that I lost a corporate comedy gig because you have to look serious.
And it's hard to look serious with no eyebrows.
It looks so weird.
It just takes away the whole component of you.
You don't think about it when you're just looking at somebody, but if you take their eyebrows off, they look like an idiot.
They look insane is what they look like.
Yeah.
Dude, you started off in Gainesville, Florida. Yes, and I always marvel at somebody that can start off in a smaller market and become successful, because I always think that if you're going to get in this business, you need to be in an area that has a very vibrant comedy scene. Now,
Sure.
I could be totally unaware of the scene in Gainesville, but what was that like when you were starting off in comedy? Because you and I had talked about stories where you were coming out and seeing comedians at a one-nighter that was in town there, which was kind of how you really, that was your school.
Yeah, pretty much. So I was afraid. I was terrified of speaking in front of people when I was in my whole life until I started doing stand-up, I guess. And I took a college. I was going to college, and I took a course in public speaking, and I couldn't finish it. I literally quit because my nerves just took over, and I just couldn't do it. And then my friends talked me into writing some jokes just to see if I could write them. And I wrote them, and they said they were good. So then I recorded them. Then I found out there was a comedy club there, and I probably was writing for 2 or 3 months before I even stepped foot on stage. I just wanted to watch and see, how you do this. And I went week after week after week writing. And I talked to a friend of mine, Michael Mack, who's a friend now. I didn't know him then. And I told him my situation. And I said, I've been writing for months. How do you know when you're ready to get on stage? And he looked at me and he said, when you decide to quit being a pussy. And I was like, all right, well, I guess I can probably do this now then. And it went really well. I mean, the first show, I got laughs throughout it. I mean, I didn't record it or anything, but I have a pretty vivid memory of it. And, I did pretty well. And actually a comic who most of us know, comics know, Spanky Brown was the headliner. And of course they introduced me his first time on stage. And when I went to the back of the room where he was standing, he was like, "You're a liar." I'm like, "What are you talking about?" He was like, "You've done this before." And I was like, "No, I really haven't." And he was like, "Well, quit your job. You got something." So I didn't quit my job, but I did continue doing it. And, it turned out great. A lot of people ask, are you upset you didn't make it big or anything like that? And of course everybody wants that. That wasn't really my drive. I just wanted to be a comic and be the best that I could at it. And I think I did pretty well.
No, you did very well. I mean, and anybody that makes that comment, do you feel bad that you didn't make it? I mean, if you're enjoying what you're doing, you made it.
Yeah, absolutely.
And everybody has their own vision of what making it is. I mean, some people say, well, I'm not going to make it if I don't get on the Tonight Show, or I don't get movies, or I don't get a sitcom. And the reality of it is there's so many comedians out there, and there's only so many spots for people to win the lottery.
Exactly.
And so anybody that makes the comment of, I always bristle when someone makes the, did you never went to New York or LA? You didn't make it. I'm like, I know plenty of guys in New York and LA that haven't made it, and they're still driving Uber right now. And
absolutely,
they're not getting any stage time. They're doing some, back room at a coffee house in Santa Barbara, for 6 people, 3 of them are homeless.
Well, like, what is making it? I mean, there's thousands and thousands of comics that never even see the first dollar. You know what I mean? They never get paid. They never stick with it long enough or to become really good. And when you can get paid to do, I know it sounds cliche, but something that you love, I don't think there's anything that you can complain about. You know what I mean? I mean, if you love doing it and you're okay with the shit pay, then you're good to go.
Now you were working as a road comic for a while. Did you have any thoughts of moving to New York or Los Angeles or do anything like that? Or was it kind of just, let me just see where this goes as things move along?
Yeah, I mean, kind of my situation was when I was starting out in Florida, my mom also lived in Florida and she had MS. I didn't have to take care of her. We had, she lived in an assisted living facility. But she started declining in health when I first started. And I just felt like it was the right thing to do to kind of stay around. Now, I never had the money to move to LA or New York, but, I think I kind of put that aside and wanted to stay close to my mom, just so I could visit her and
right.
see her once a week. But yeah, I mean, I think that was pretty much why I never pursued it any further. But also, I mean, at that point, I don't think I was a good comic then. So I was just, good enough to get feature work at the low level clubs, and I was bartending and happy. So I just kind of stuck with doing what I was doing, and slowly but surely, I did pretty well with getting the last year that I worked on the road. I worked 48 weeks, and and didn't have a day job. So I'm pretty happy about that. You know what I mean? That's really all.
No, you should be happy. No,
Yeah.
it's great. I mean, now you are a partner, business owner of the Laughing Comedy Club in Fort Myers, Florida. Yep. Fantastic room. I was there. I'd been at that club years ago before you had taken it over. And what you guys did over there, the way you designed it, the way the room looks now is fantastic. What was the allure to now become a club owner as opposed to working the road? Because I met you up in Myrtle Beach, South Carolina, when you were managing and also, I believe, a part owner at the time at Carolina Comedy Club. So what made you decide to go that route?
Well, honestly, it was a friend of mine offered me the job to manage the club up there the year previous to when I actually ended up taking the job. And I told him, I was just like, I'm working enough as a comic, and I think me and Tim Kidd were touring together, and it's so much more fun when you're touring with someone who you consider your best friend. I mean, we had a blast on the road, and it was like you know how it is where you have to leave family or like your girlfriend or wife or whatever. You have to leave them every week for 3 or 4, sometimes 5 days, sometimes a couple weeks, and you just go by yourself. So we were teamed up, and I mean, it was great. Then we had a stretch where one club, it was like a 2-month stretch where 2 weeks fell out because the club either closed or they brought a celebrity in. And then we went to Appleton, Wisconsin, where the Comedy Quarter was. It was a great little room until it wasn't.
Right.
It was always jam-packed full of people. And then all of a sudden, I don't know. I mean, I guess the economy just went to the shitter, and then so did that club. I mean, it went down quick because we used to go up there and, the pay was okay. And then we'd also sell like $700, $800 in merch. We went there and we sold like $100. So then I'm pretty broke. We had the last couple of weeks fall out, and I set up a meeting and we talked about it. And I just was like, you know what, I'll give you 2 years. And then if it goes well, I'll continue doing it. If it doesn't, I'll just go back on the road. It's not a big deal.
Right.
The road will always be there, So, and then obviously I liked it, and the money is still shit, but I love it.
Well, now you were partnered with that club in Myrtle Beach, and when that relationship went away, what was going through your mind at the time? Because now all of a sudden you are kind of entrenched in living in Myrtle Beach, South Carolina. You were still traveling back and forth. I remember you going down to Florida and being down there and seeing friends and family. Yeah. But now all of a sudden the rug is getting yanked out from underneath you. And when you're on the road as a comedian and you get a week that falls out on you, that's bad enough. But now this is everything falling out. What was going through your mind at that time when everything started to unravel?
It was a weird situation. Like I really didn't want to sell my portion of the club because I felt like we had some momentum going into the year that year. And also we were going to start doing karaoke after the shows, which the business that was next door to us was a full-time karaoke bar, and they were always packed full of people. So when they closed down, I instantly went to the guy that was doing the karaoke over there and said, we want to do it at the comedy club after the shows. Everything was set up, and I really do believe that we would have made a killing up there had we kept it. But the money partner just didn't have the money to continue doing it. He got a decent offer, I guess, from a lunatic, and he took it. Other way to describe that guy. He's a lunatic.
So how did that make you feel, though, when you're seeing this deal that he makes with this said lunatic, and now all of a sudden you're in the middle of this?
Sorry, I had a call that bumped into the phone. So
no, that's okay. I was going to say, so the old owner makes a deal with said lunatic, and now you're in the midst of this whole situation. You can see that this person is probably not going to be someone that you want to deal with. And you're thinking, this is not going to work out for me. I mean, what was going through your head at the time? Did you have any illusions about moving to Florida? Were you looking to still stay in Myrtle Beach and then continue to be a road comic? Or what was your thought process?
So what happened was the guy that ended up buying the club, he's a millionaire. I mean, he's got tons of money. He has an insane amount of money, and he wanted to be a comic, and this is how the whole relationship started. He wanted to be a comedian, and he asked me if I would help him with his material. So one day I helped him at the workshop, which we held every week for free. I helped him on a couple jokes, and he was just not good at it. which is fine. I mean, that's how most people start out. They start out terrible, and then I like to help the younger, not the younger comics. He was older than me, but the newer comics, I like to help them so they're not clueless up there. Plus, it was my club that he was going to be performing at. You don't want to put terrible comics on stage. So I helped him with a couple of his jokes, and when he left, he gave me $100. I was like, well, that was cool. So then the next time I saw him, he asked me a couple questions, and I answered them, and he handed me $100. I was like, well, I could get used to this. And then
that doesn't suck.
Yeah, next couple times he hands me $100 again, and then one time he went up to do a guest spot.
You were like a comedian stripper.
Yeah, pretty much.
Like in the little VIP room.
Yeah, exactly.
Hey, what's up? You gave him a comedic lap dance, and he slipped you $100.
$100 a pop. So he went up one time, and I'm not lying to you. All I said was, boy, that was brutal. He gave me $100. I'm like, dude, you don't have to give me $100 every time I talk about your act. And he's like, appreciate it, blah, blah, blah. So anyway, that's the guy that ended up buying the club. And you think, well, this is going to be amazing. And he put a ton of money into the club. He fixed all the problems that I saw as the manager that I didn't have the money to fix.
Right.
He fixed that place. It's an amazing venue now. And then, you start seeing these little things that he does, and he's treating the staff poorly. And our agreement,
and you saw this when you were still there.
Yeah, our agreement was that, or it was just it wasn't like a contract, but he agreed staff intact and everything. So, because he was part of the comedy community, so he knew all the staff. And then he started just treating everyone like shit. So then they started quitting, and I'm like, oh, I see what he's doing. He didn't want to keep the staff, but he agreed to it, so he's just going to run them off. It's his place now. But he and I, we just couldn't get along. I mean, we just couldn't. He had all these rules where the comics had to stay in the green room. They weren't allowed in the showroom, and he would just go off on people. And he was all right with me. And then once he started with me, I was like, all right, it might be time to look for something else. Well, Eric Grady is another comic, and he was seeing how it was affecting me. I mean, he was like, yeah, it was just, you could tell that you were ready to explode at any point. And he said, we should look for a club to buy. And I was like, oh, good. I don't have any money. And he was like, well, we'll figure the money part out. And I didn't know. I just kind of not brushed it off. We talked about it. It was like one of those little, dreams where you're like, this could happen.
Sure.
You know it won't happen, but you still talk about it to bullshit.
Right.
And then we found a venue. We found this club, and there was another one in Ohio. And I was like, well, I know the club in Florida a little bit better. I had been to the one in Ohio, and it's a decent club. But I was like, well, the one in Florida's home. And I'd just been to this club the year before, and I'm like, well, let's look into it. And we ended up doing a deal where the previous owner was the bank, essentially, and he loaned us the money, and we were paying him off. And that's how it started.
It's cool when you hear somebody have that conversation where, because how many times, I can't tell you, where I've been hanging out with friends of mine, and they're like, we should buy a bar. Yeah. And I'm already about 7 or 8 whiskeys into the night, and I'm like, yeah, we should absolutely buy a bar.
Yeah, this
is a great idea. This will fail within a month of us opening it, but we should absolutely buy a bar. We don't have the money to do it, but we should go apply for a liquor license and try to make this magic happen. So the fact that you had somebody like Eric who had the vision to see that happening, and also appreciating where you came from your background, and understanding that you knew what it would take to make something work, is huge.
Well, yeah, I mean, I think we did a pretty good job so far. I mean, we basically, that night we started talking about it. We parked our cars like cops in this empty parking lot of where I was working at the time at the comedy club in Myrtle Beach. And we talked, I'm telling you, we talked for 2 hours about this, and still never thinking it was real until we found the place and found the deal. And, right when, well, it took a little bit of time to figure out the money situation.
Sure.
Then the previous owner, Brian Corian, he stepped up, and I mean, he was going to make a good amount in the interest. So he was like, well, I'll just finance it. I know he knew that the club was doing pretty well, and that it could sustain a pretty hefty payment per week. And we were doing that until obviously the pandemic hit. And, he was a friend of mine that booked me also. So we had a relationship for 10 years before that, and he was amazing. I mean, we talked. I talked to him about the money issues the club was having because we were shut down for 10 weeks, and
Right.
he was like, "Don't worry about it. Just just keep it afloat, and don't worry about just pay me basically what you think you can pay me, when you can pay me." And that's the way we played it, and he was great about it. And then eventually we got a loan and bought out the contract with him. So now we own the club. I mean, we still have to pay the SBA.
Right.
We pretty much own the club. The payment's going to be like $750 a month. You can't beat that.
No, but the SBA, isn't it like a 1% loan or something like that?
It's extremely low. I didn't deal with the actual loan,
right?
All that stuff. But yeah, it's extremely low. It's almost like borrowing money for free, and then there's a little bit of interest on it.
Right. Yeah, but that's, you know what, if you're going to find something positive to come out of the whole pandemic COVID crap, I mean, at least something like this happened and these options were available to businesses like yourself.
Well, and I really, I'm really lucky that happened, honestly.
Right.
We survived had that not happened. We'd still be struggling along right now. And, you never know when the last week would have been, really. And we got lucky, and I hope that all the other club owners are scouring the internet to find a good deal that's going to help them stay afloat, because I really think that once this is over, people are going to come out. Once there's vaccines in their arms and all this stuff, I think that people are going to come back, and it's proven that so far. At least here in Fort Myers, the crowds have started coming back, and I'm starting to see the older people that might be at risk starting to reemerge into society, and it's great. I mean, I think once this is over, I know that everybody out there that's not in Florida or in unlocked down states, they're losing their minds. Well, just hold on, because once it opens up, you're going to be thrilled with how people have reacted. As long as they were going to react like they are here nationwide, we should be really fine.
No, I agree. I think it was great traveling to Florida, being here in Nevada, and you and I were talking about that. It's like I get off the plane in Florida, and it was like, oh, apparently there is no COVID down here. This is amazing. Yeah, everybody's calling and anybody who's not on, Governor DeSantis's side in Florida was just losing their mind, going, he's killing the Floridians. And I'm like, I'm seeing a lot of happy Floridians that are drinking and having a good time. You guys are losing your shit for no reason. So this guy's got it dialed in. So I thought it was fantastic coming down there and being a part of the experience of actually seeing a regular comedy club again and having all on top of each other. And, if you don't want to come to the show, don't come to the show. You want to wear a mask? Wear a mask. Nobody was giving anybody a hard time for wearing a mask. I mean, I think I saw 4 people down there that 3 days that I was with you wearing masks in the showroom. But nobody gave anybody a hard time. It was like, it's your own personal preference.
No, I think Florida did it right. I mean, we could argue about this all day on social
Absolutely.
media.
I'm sure. But we can't now because it's canceled. You got rid of it.
Thank you. I'm glad that worked out. No, I mean, I think if you look at math, it's telling you that the states that didn't lock down are just as affected as states that did lock down. And I really wish, a lot of the public officials would realize that and start opening up. I mean, I think it's time. We've learned, obviously the scientists and doctors have learned enough about this. I'm not saying it's ever going to die from it again, but the numbers are going to get better and better and better. And hopefully everyone makes it through it that owns a comedy club, because I mean, really, I just met the owner of Wiley's just this past week when we I think it was the Saturday show.
Right.
Over and introduced himself, and he's a super nice guy, but you could tell him he's stressed and he's worried about his business. And
sure,
we're fortunate in Florida that we didn't, we did shut down for 10 weeks, but I think that was a 10 weeks where they're like, all right, let's wait and see what happens. Let's learn about this and figure out how we can do things safely. And I think we did that. I know that, people are going to argue that we didn't and that we're, crazy.
Yeah, whatever.
Math is math. Math is also a science.
Yeah.
And sometimes people forget that.
Yeah, everybody says follow the science, follow the numbers. And then when the numbers don't and the science doesn't match their narrative, then all of a sudden math and science is bad.
Yeah,
I
can't imagine how it is in some of these states that are completely locked down. It's been a year. It's been a full year that some of these states have been completely locked down, and I don't know how the people are not losing their minds. I really don't.
I know.
even for the mental stability, open stuff up. You'll lose a few people, but how many suicides are you going to save?
No, exactly. Well, and you got really lucky recently. You and I were texting back and forth, and you're like, yeah, I got Ron White at the club this week. And I'm like, yeah, okay, whatever. And for people that don't understand, your club seats probably, I'm guessing, what, 250?
No,
probably
smaller than that. It's like 190 to 200.
Okay, 190 to 200 people. Ron White. And I thought it was you being a jackass. And it's some open micer whose name was Ron White. And you're like, no, the real Ron White's coming here. And I'm like, you got to be kidding me. You're like, yeah, he's the middle act. I'm like, oh, are you shitting me? I'm like, who the hell's got to follow that? And it was Dale Jones, who is a good friend of ours, absolutely hysterical comedian, guest here on the podcast before, one of the funniest people out there. So yeah, I'm sure he did a brilliant job, but that had to be a fantastic show. And he said Ron White was getting set to, his manager lives nearby. Is that correct?
Yeah.
Or he bought a house down there?
His manager just bought a house down here and he's renovating it. And Ron White is about to start a tour coming up. It's the same tour that he had to cancel from last year.
Right.
They're just doing the same route of the same places.
Sure.
And he hasn't been on stage in a year, and he wanted I think what he wanted is he wanted a room that was pretty full and people that aren't there to see him. Obviously he's going to have fans in every audience, but he didn't want anyone to know. And the first show, I think we accomplished that. I think after that, the cat was out of the bag, but he was amazing. I mean,
how many shows did you guys do? Was it 5 or 4?
He did 4 shows.
So it's like 1 show on Thursday, 1 Friday, and then 2 on Saturday, correct?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And it was amazing. I couldn't, you'd think about these guys. He's probably got a pretty high net worth, and he doesn't need. He didn't even ask for any money, thank God. He didn't ask for anything, literally anything. He parked his bus behind the club, and he slept in his bus behind the club for 3 days. And he just came out. He would go do his set, and then he'd stand outside and bullshit with everybody, and out back, not out front where the people were, but
right.
Everything. He was great with all the comics. I mean, you couldn't ask for a nicer guy. He was just super laid back. He just wanted to get on stage, and I think every comic that went through this shutdown kind of feels that same thing. You miss it, and you want to get back on the stage. And he did 4 shows, and he was amazing. And not only that, Dale Jones got 3 out of 4 standing ovations. And then the show that he didn't get one might have been the best show.
Right.
He was amazing.
That's so cool.
He was a little nervous coming into it. He's like, well, what if they see Ron White and then they don't want to laugh? And I was like, Dale, I think you're forgetting that you're Dale Jones.
Yeah.
They're so different. I mean, they're polar opposites when it comes to comedy. I mean,
completely polar opposite.
Ron White is super laid back and, a slower delivery and a storyteller. And then Dale Jones, I don't know how you would explain what Dale does.
A squirrel on acid.
I mean, that's probably exactly right. I mean, he's a lunatic. There's no, I mean, he's just a lunatic. You can't say anything other than that. I mean, he's
hands down just hysterical. And how did that, I got to ask this. So Thursday, the crowd's in there. I'm assuming you probably had, I'm guessing, maybe 60, 70 people, maybe?
Yeah, I think we ended up getting like 85 for that show. But that include, I did tell all the local comics so they could come on Thursday and actually watch the show to see them. Yeah, we got up there right around 80 something, and they had no idea. I'll send you the clip of the first night when he was introduced. It was really cool.
They must have lost their shit.
They did. I mean, I know one show he got a standing ovation before and after his set because they didn't know he was coming.
Wow.
It was wild. And it was a really cool moment when you see the host. All the hosts here have not done comedy more than 3 years, I think. Maybe a little bit longer, but you could just hear it in their voice. They were nervous to even do it. It was great.
That's so cool.
Yeah.
That's neat seeing that. It's cool to see that energy. It's good to see those that level of excitement. And you also do a great job of fostering that relationship with the local comedians and trying to get them stage time and, let them get up there and, do guest spots and so forth. So they must have just absolutely lost their minds. It's got to be tough for you as a comedian. Now you're a club owner. Now you're not just dealing with comedian friends. Now it's comedian friends looking for work. So how do you handle unfunny friends in this business wanting a gig? Because we all have them. We all have friends of ours, people that we've met on the road that we hit it off with, and they're great people. But comedically, you're like, not where you would want them to be if you owned a club. So now all of a sudden they're contacting you and they're like, hey, Jamie, what do you got?
I don't know how to tell you this, but all my friends are funny. What are you talking about? No, it is hard. I mean, you got to make some decisions. You got to make some decisions.
Sure.
I'm sure that there's been some comics that are, my friends that aren't necessarily more my friends anymore. But you want to put the comics up that you can afford, and then two that are going to do well. Now sometimes in the feature spot you can play with it there, and someone that's not as experienced, you drop them down to 15-20 minutes, and you kind of because I think every decent comic has a good 10 minutes. You know what I mean?
Right.
Minutes. Some of them, the ones that are my close friends, sometimes you just leave them in that feature spot and just, eventually they're going to ask, but you got to just be,
sure.
You got to be honest with them. And that's really it. I mean, just be honest with them. And, the ones that, I'm going to give my secret away. Sometimes you just don't say anything to them. And when they come for their date, you're like, well, I'm all booked. I mean, I don't know. I can't reach out to every comic I'm friends with to try and get
right.
them. There's some parts of this job you got to do yourself. I mean, you come up with something. But I mean, for the most part, you can find a spot for everyone.
Right.
In the slower season, you're going to have the comics that are kind of on the fringe, that on the fringe of headlining, or like new comics, not new comics, but like Nathan Wallace is a local comic here that he's been a feature for a little while, and he's just made great improvement over the last 2 years that we've been here. And I'm giving him a week to headline this summer. And I mean, that's what you want to do. I know a lot of clubs, they don't promote their hosts to feature in their features to headliners. But I think I think it's crazy. I mean, of all the people you should be booking, or the people that have lived here and they're entrenched in this community, they're going to have their friends come out, obviously, if it's, not just an open mic or something like that. But the first time he headlines, of course, he's going to have a ton of people here. And I mean, I think that benefits the club and it benefits the comics. And if I'm guilty of anything in terms of booking, it's probably booking too many guest spots. I mean, I'd love to get the people on stage.
Right.
And get them in front of real crowds and not just open mic or some shit bar that no one shows up to. They didn't even know was comedy. And I don't want them training there. I want them training in front of an audience that's packed. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Anytime someone says, well, you know what? Stage time is stage time. And I disagree with that, because I think you can end up bad stage time is just as detrimental as not having stage time to me. If you're up there in front of a bad audience, and I mean, I would defer to you on this as well. I think we're both in agreement that if you're going up in front of a shitty crowd, or it's a super, super rowdy crowd, and you're just going up there saying whatever you possibly can to get some kind of a reaction, whether it's, talking about, pooping in a laptop, a saxophone solo, foreskin, or dead babies,
that could be an open micer's set list right there. Literally, an open micer's set list. You can pull out 10 or 15 of those cards, and that's an open micer's set list right there.
What is the biggest disaster that you've seen on stage that as a comedian you would be in the back laughing your ass off, but as a club owner you're going, what the fuck is happening?
So there was when I was in Gainesville, this is early on. So for my open mic in Gainesville, the reason why I was so successful, it was one of the most successful open mics in the state. Around that time, we made sure that the comics that were going up were at least competent and you didn't have to be good. You didn't have to be great, obviously. But if you had something that resembled stand-up, we would put you up. It had to at least resemble it for us to let you up. And there was this guy his name. You can look up on YouTube. It's The Amazing Mr. Slug, and it was his audition.
The Amazing Mr. Slug.
It's probably the worst thing I've ever seen, and obviously this guy thought he was going to be a star. It's just the most bizarre shit you've ever seen, and I could not let it up. I could not get him on stage. I would never put him on stage. There's not only is his audition there, there's also a second video. It's called The Amazing Mr. Slug Denied, and it was where I told him he couldn't go up. It's beautiful.
And this is on YouTube? People can find this on YouTube? Okay.
Yeah, the Amazing Mr. Slug at Coconuts Comedy Club. Look that up on YouTube. I think you can find that. And then The Amazing Mr. Slug Denied is another video. And they're both great videos.
So this guy was, so as a comedian, you're laughing your ass off at this guy because it was obviously a shit show.
He's one of those guys, you know those, how there's like Mitch Hedberg clones. And what's that guy from New York, the real energetic, act everything out guy? What is his name? What is that guy?
Can't think off the top of my head.
I can't remember. He's super New York Italian.
I was going to say Sebastian Maniscalco. Yeah. He's from Chicago, I think, originally, but I know he's
okay.
Yeah.
Well, you know how you have those clones, those guys that are like, well, I like this comic, so I'm going to pretend to be exactly. Well, The Amazing Mr. Slug, I feel like he thought he was Andy Kaufman.
Oh, Jesus.
You know what I mean? But
wow.
Andy Kaufman was Andy Kaufman. That's why he could do those Andy Kaufman things, and it would be funny.
Right.
If you're just some dude wearing a diaper, you're not going to do well. I didn't mean to give some parts of it away, but it was the weirdest thing I've ever seen in my life.
Well, you're not going to give it away. You're actually going to draw more hits to the video.
That's enough. I think that's enough to give the people. Look it up and don't just watch it for what it is. Like, put yourself in my shoes where I have to give a thumbs up or thumbs down.
Wow. Well, this is now my new project after we get off the phone and I put away these stupid ass cards that don't make any sense. I got to look up the video on The Amazing Mr. Slug. You were in the Navy. Did any of how long were you in? 4 years?
I was in 4 years, yeah.
4 years. Did you have any aspirations of ever wanting to make that a career?
Well, here's the story. Like, I was basically I was right up for re-enlistment, and my dad is retired Navy. My granddad was in the Navy. Two of my uncles were in the Navy. My whole family's military. Some of them accidentally went to the Army because they didn't study enough. But most to the Navy. But like, the thing is, my dad was retired Navy. When I got out of high school, I didn't know what I wanted to do, but I realized that selling weed wasn't going to do it.
It does now.
Yeah, they legitimately do it now. But I just didn't want to I didn't know what I wanted to do with my life, and I went and I went into the Navy because I didn't really have anything else that I was excited about, and I didn't want to just waste away, So I went to the Navy, and did I like it? I liked some of it. I mean, some of it was fun. I got to shoot missiles and stuff like that. That was pretty cool. But I had a decision to make. If I was going to stay in after 4 years, if I was going to stay in for another 4, then I'm staying in for 20.
Right.
And I wasn't ready to commit to something like that. Plus, I could always go back. I mean, I could have always gone back if I wanted to. So I got out and I started bartending and waiting tables and going to college and failing out of that or quitting.
Now, was there any aspect of the Navy that you ended up applying to what you're doing now? Is there any level of discipline that carries over now that you can think back that you learned in the military, whether it was from your dad, your grandparents, or actually being in the Navy yourself?
For a while there, it was no sick days. I wouldn't really take any sick days. You just kind of tough through it. But these days, if you're sick, you just can't go.
Right.
Go to work. Now, before in the restaurant industry, if you were sick, you would just go to work. You'd tough it out and go to work and then make everyone sick. You can't do that now. You can't make everyone sick. It's just,
no, not now. Now you're the dick that killed grandma.
I know. Yeah, and you don't want to kill me, Ma. Everyone loves her. I don't think I wasn't really a military guy. Like, I mean, I obviously was a part of the military and I grew up military, but I just wasn't the type of person. I have to open this door. I wasn't the type of person that was right for the Navy. I just wasn't right for it. And 4 years, I didn't do that much damage, but
Right.
truthfully, I'm not that type of person where I could make it in the military and be, and succeed. I was okay. I didn't get into too much. I just wasn't one of those lifers, I don't think. And I could have turned into that, but I decided to get out and do something else.
What's the biggest mistake? Because I've seen a lot of comedians that have become comedy club owners through the years. In your opinion, what is the worst thing that a comedian can do when they own a comedy club?
Go on stage too much. Like just hog all the time. I think that's where a lot of comics.
Well, hang on, you muted out on me. There we go. Oh, got you now. Okay, cool.
Yeah, I had a call again. I think one of the biggest mistakes that comics can make when they take over a room is like doing too much time and then only bringing in people that are like them comedically, because obviously whatever you are as a comic is probably what you like.
Right.
You can't just bring in you after.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? You can't just bring in you after you after you. I like to. I like to book different types of comics. There's some comics, I won't say their names, I don't like what they're doing, but the people love it. So,
oh yeah, there's plenty of times you watch an act and you almost get like, if you really don't like that person's style, like you're in the back and you get pissed at the audience for laughing.
Yeah, I mean,
which is so funny. You're like, this is so stupid. Why are you laughing at this horse shit?
Yeah.
Why are you laughing at Mr. Slug?
Yeah, exactly. Hopefully he's not anywhere on any stages. But I think the most important thing is being objective. Like, don't look at it as, well, I really like this person, so I'm going to book. But if the people like it, that's a switch that I probably had to make, because I think early on I probably just booked all my buddies, and you can't just book your friends. You gotta reach out to other people, and I think our schedule now is the best schedule I've ever put together, and obviously.
Well, you dropped on me. You got a call coming in? There you go. Yeah. Got you now.
Yeah. So I think that's one of the biggest mistakes comics make, is just booking themselves or their friends. And you got to separate those two. You can't just give your friend a headlining week if he's a decent feature.
Right.
Because then you're just ruining the show. And the show isn't for you, it's for the people. So you have to watch the shows. You got to be in the room. That's another thing. A lot of club owners, and this, they never go into the showroom when the shows are going on. They don't know how their comics are doing. They just keep booking the same people because that's who they booked the year before, and the year before, and the year before. And I think what I'm probably going to do and have been doing the last couple of years is having, my 25 or 30 comics that I probably will have every year. And that means, and that's another thing, is you've got to keep creating as a comic. I was talking to Dale about it. Dale's been doing it 28 years. And that guy did, I think most of his whole hour was something I never heard. Now, I haven't seen him in 10 years on stage.
Right.
But as well as I do, there's a lot of comics out there that have been doing the same act for 20 years, and they wonder why they're not getting booked. It's because
that's the thing. Well, yeah, because it's like guys that you saw when you started off in the business, and you were thinking, man, this guy's great. And then you literally run into him again, and it's almost as if it was an album that you heard years ago, and then you popped it back on, and it was the exact same album in the exact same order with the exact inflection, the same punchlines, everything.
Yep.
Same references that were 10, 15 years ago that aren't relevant now, and they were still using those. So that's tough.
There's a reason why at a comedy club it's a person on stage and not a screen you pull down and just play the video from last year. I mean, there's a reason. Like, this club especially has so many regulars. I mean, we have people that are here every single week. Every week at the same show, we have, I mean, there's probably 50 people that are regulars, but like weekly regulars.
Right.
And that just tells me that I'm going to have 25 to 30 comics that I'll probably have every year that keep writing, keep creating. And then there's going to be a rotation of like 20 comics. So, and I'm just going to have to watch them and make sure they're up to par. But that's part of my job, is watching the comics and making sure they're good comics. And I think the schedule that we have is it's going to for most clubs that are out at my level, I'm going to have a better schedule.
No, you've got a very diverse lineup. I mean, there's all kinds of different acts that are coming in there that anybody can appreciate.
Yeah.
One question I'd like to ask here too, as we wrap up, in your years of doing comedy, we all have, anybody can ask you about what your favorite gig was, and I don't really care about that. I don't. I want to know about the Nightmare gig. What was it? What happened? Do you remember where it was?
Well, I wouldn't say it was a nightmare, but this is my favorite bad thing that's happened at a club. I was on stage in Orlando, and it was a bonkers gig, and I was closing, and a lady threw a rocks glass at my head, and I dodged it. It exploded on the wall, and I said, "Just a bit outside." So this is what happened. So I was on stage. Well, I was off stage. Actually, I can't remember the feature's name. He's still a working comic. I just can't remember who it was. He was on stage, and there was this loud group of people. And what I like to do when they're chattering or like yelling stuff out, when I first hit the stage, I like to talk to them, get their attention, and see if I can keep it. You know what I mean? I like to engage with them because they're obviously, for whatever reason, they're not watching the show. So if you make them pay attention to you and then you move on, you might be able to capture them. So I asked them, how they knew each other, and they were in the Army. And I said, "Oh, what are you doing in the Army?" to the guy that was answering the questions. And he was a bigger guy, like, kind of fat. He was like, I'm an Army Ranger. And Army Rangers are supposed to be like tip-top shape. You know what I mean? They're supposed to be the
those guys are ripped.
Yeah, they're supposed to be the badasses of the Army, and we're at a comedy show, so fuck it. I said, are you an Army Ranger? Are you sure you're not a park ranger and you're stealing all the picnic baskets? And like, that's a great line. I'm very proud of coming up with that.
You should be proud of that line coming off
a good line
off the cuff like that.
His wife lost it. She's like, "Fuck you. They just came back," and then she threw a rock. It just shattered everywhere, and they took her out of the room. And it turns out, like, all of those guys had just gotten back from Afghanistan, and
and apparently that fat bastard ate some of the Taliban.
Yeah, I don't know what happened. I don't know how he gained so much weight over there, but anyway, they had just gotten back. So the wife was stressed because they had been gone for 6 months. They'd just come back, and they're like, "Oh, let's go celebrate at the comedy club." And then I call him fat. I mean, I get it. He thought it was funny. I mean, the whole group was laughing besides her. She didn't like it. So there's always going to be one person in the crowd that doesn't like your joke, especially if it's a dig at one of them. I mean, it was funny. And so she left. They took her out, and I was like, no, don't kick her out. And then she was out of the room for a little while, and then she came back in, and she wasn't facing me. She had her back to me.
Oh, jeez.
But then I see her shoulders like this. She'd start moving.
Right.
Like, oh shit, she's laughing. And then she's halfway turned around. Then she's all the way turned around. And afterwards, we were all taking pictures and laughing about it and shit like that.
Sure.
But I get the stress by a military mom. You know what I mean? A military wife. I mean, my mom was a military wife the whole time I grew up. And it's hard when your husband's gone, your dad's gone.
Well, yeah, you grew up in that environment.
Yeah, I mean, I after hearing what you said, I'm like, I totally get that. And I totally understand. And I did apologize, but she eventually said it was funny, and everything was fine. Everything was fine, but it was definitely a moment that I'll remember forever.
You're like, that's okay. Everything's cool. Everything's fine. By the way, the policeman's here to file charges for assault and battery since you threw a rocks glass on my head, you crazy bitch.
Well, the next time I came to that club, I got my tires slashed, so I don't know if she came back.
Are you serious?
Yeah, I think it was there was a homeless guy that I didn't give money to.
Yeah, you shouldn't. Well, he didn't. He obviously didn't need a knife. He took care of that.
I'd say about 20% of the time, I will. If their sign is good, you got to give them some cash. You know, gotta have a good time. It was at Gainesville's Comedy Showcase in Gainesville. Me and Monty Allen ran it. I don't know if you remember Monty.
Yeah,
wild man. But anyway, so we didn't have any advertising money. We were charging $5 a head. We'd get about 50 people. And we paid a homeless guy that was at the interstate there. We paid him in cheeseburgers, beer, and cash. But he held a sign that said, "Gainesville's Comedy Showcase paid me to hold this sign instead of begging for your money." And it did great. It's the greatest thing.
great.
That's what we should be doing. Those should be the sign spinners. Why are we paying sign spinners that have houses?
Right.
Let's pay the homeless to spin the signs.
You paid him in beer, cheeseburgers, and a little bit of cash. That sounds like a lot of the gigs that I've done for many years, and still do today, to be honest with you.
Well, next time you come back, I got some cheeseburgers for you.
Shit! Damn it, dude! I am so happy for you with this new club, and I'm actually very excited that my next album was recorded at your place when I was there.
That's awesome, man. That's an honor.
Really excited about having that come out. It sounded just absolutely fantastic. The crowd at your place at Laughing Comedy Cafe, Fort Myers, get down there and see a show. The crowd is right on top of you. It has a very old school comedy club feel. I mean, it's dark. There's tight. You want ceilings to be low. You want everybody right on top of you. And the energy that you guys have fostered in there and what you've done is just fantastic. Huge props to you and to Eric and the whole staff over there for making it work as well as it does, man.
That means a lot. You've seen a lot of rooms. You know what's wrong with them, and hopefully, if you see anything wrong with mine, let me know. But so far,
it was. Listen, it's super cool. I've got if you can, I'm booking this guy, this Mr. Slug. Can you fit him in sometime?
I can fit him
for
somewhere.
Christmas parties, holiday parties. He'd be great for it.
The only thing I'd want to fit him in is a wood chipper. The guy's terrible. He's awful. The guy he's terrible.
His diaper will jam the wood chipper. You don't want to ruin a perfectly good wood chipper.
Dude, you've got to see it. You've got to see it. And if you have time in this to like put it into this, you should do that.
I will. You know what? I'm gonna drive people to the YouTube site to see the Amazing Mr. Slug and then the Amazing Mr. Slug Denied.
That's it. Those are the ones.
Listen, audience, you have 2 videos to watch, and then you also have a comedy club to go to when you're in Fort Myers. Laughing Comedy Cafe. Jamie Morgan, you're awesome, brother. Thank you so much, man. I appreciate it.
Thank you, Derek. Love you, buddy.
Thanks for listening to A Drink with Derek. Find out when Derek is appearing near you by checking out DerekRichards.com. See you next time for A Drink with Derek.